Okay, good afternoon, everyone. I hope everyone is having a great time at DrupalCon Europe 2020 event. And I'm really glad to be here with you all virtually um, at this year's DrupalCon event in Europe. So to give an introduction about me, I am Timur Tamarakon, joining DrupalCon all the way from Sri Lanka. And I'm working at WSO2 in the automation team. So my uh, day-to-day job involves automation tasks, and I'm working with our website, which is on Drupal platform, and closely working with our marketing team, helping them automating their processes, managing their marketing stack. So basically helping them on the marketing operations and technical marketing front. So today I'm going to talk about how we are tracking and managing a marketing lead journey with a Drupal website. And this is based on our experience for the past few years and from the research we have done. So let's get started. So in this session, first, I'll be talking about the lead journey and lead funnel and why we are tracking the leads and how you can identify the data points to track and what are the tools out there you can use to track these leads and the funnel and the advantages and the experience with these tools and how you can implement missing bits and pieces in Drupal and how you can do that in a scalable way. So if you think about your traffic you are getting to your website, the behavior, the way of interacting with your content pages will be different. There can be users who are coming from various websites, like external websites, and maybe they are seeing your online ads and coming to your website, or maybe they are seeing a social media post and coming to your website, and they may be going from one page to another and just weaving the pages. Or there can be users who are coming to a website, and if you have like gated content, if you are having forms which needs to fill to access a content, they might be accessing those contents by filling out their details. And there can be users who have like a business need and want to interact with your support offerings, services offerings, and signing up with your free trial or purchasing your services and becoming customers. So you can see that there are multiple ways, various interactions happening in your website. And based on these, you can decide, okay, this is my lead journey, and this is the type of leads I'm getting, and this is the different behaviors in my system. This can be vary from website, or depends on your way of offering your services and your business goals and so on. And if you think about this journey from a marketing and sales point of view, we call it a lead funnel. So this again, identifying leads based on their different attributes. And in here, you can look at your leads based on their activities and call them, okay, the first layer, we are getting visitors, and now they are becoming registered users, and they are registering with our free trial. And ultimately, they will become customers. That's one way of looking at them. Or maybe you can name the stages, the states leads are in. Like there's a visitor stage, and when they interact with your gated content, providing their email address, you can call them a lead. If they're interacting with your first time, you can tell them that's a fresh lead, and they will convert into marketing qualified leads or sales qualified leads, or and then become customers. And also based on the engagement, also you can call them they are in the awareness stage, like they just hear about your brand from somewhere, and then they show interest and come to your website, and then they engage with your content, and then they commit, like signing up with a free trial, and then they become a customer. So if you look at these different stages from a numerical perspective, um, you will get a lot of visitors, and out of these visitors, a portion of leads will become fresh leads, like giving their email address and engaging with your content. And out of that fresh lead, the subject will become marketing qualified lead and SQL and so on. So if you form this into a graphical representation, it will be a it will look like a funnel. So that's why we call this a lead funnel. And this again can be depend on the leads and the interactions you are getting to your website, and maybe it depends on your business as well. So why we are tracking the leads and why we are thinking about lead stages and this funnel. So the most important advantage we have gotten from this is forecasting, the ability to forecast your leads. For an example, you know that you are getting this amount of visitors, and out of that, you know, let's say 30% are converting into fresh leads. And maybe ultimately you can say, okay, 10% are converting into customers. So in this quarter, if you get a specific set of or amount of visitors, you can tell your sales team, okay, you can expect this amount of customers in the coming quarters or coming months. So that's forecasting. And you can validate the different stages in this funnel and identify which stage is working, which stage is not working. For an example, if you feel like, okay, you don't get as much SQLs from your MQLs, so there should be some quality issues with your MQL leads. So you will need to revisit how you score your leads, how you qualify your marketing qualified leads. So those criteria you might need to revisit and analyze. And also, uh, if you have this kind of structure, you can design marketing nurturing campaigns, especially focusing on specific stages and nurture these leads. And your website in this case plays a major role. So that's the first touch point of a prospect. Like if you have like online campaigns or sponsored content hosted outside of your website, people will interact or click those links and lands on your website. And if your website has a really good structured way of guiding them and a good user experience and quality content, your website can retain those users. Or if it's the other way, uh, these users will exit. They won't proceed with your path, they will just exit. And so in this way, you can build your website to convert these leads in an efficient way and really user friendly way. And of course, your website can be the place which collects the data, and maybe it's the analytics platform for you as well. So what are the data we should capture? There can be multiple ways of looking at the data also. So for an example, you can say, okay, external activity data. You can capture the ad clicks happening outside of your website, or link clicks, or maybe you can see or collect the interaction data, like when they lands on your site, the visits, the paths, or the behavioral data, like when they scroll the page, clicks on the links, and when they fill forms, you can capture this behavioral data. And of course, the personal data, the email address, personal identifiable data. And then again, you can look at the campaign specific data as well, like your campaign name, campaign attributes, and how these campaigns are associating with other activities. So in Drupal, there are multiple ways of tracking these activities and leads. If you want to implement your tracking to cover your complete website, that's a site-wide tracking. So in that case, you might need to implement your tracking to apply to all the pages. So in that case, you can use your header or footer blocks, or if you have like a common template which applies to all these pages, you can use that to add this tracking. Or maybe you can use a script file which contains the tracking codes, and you can include that in templates as well. And maybe you want to track only the page level interactions. For an example, let's say you want to track the contact us page interactions. In that case, you can add the tracking into that node itself, or maybe add the tracking to the template which uses that contact page. Or in the next stage, maybe you just want to track the element interactions. Like in the contact us form, I just want to see how many people are clicking this drop down field or clicking the submit button. So in that case, you can use the element identifiers like the class name, element ID, or the form name to track the element level attributes. So let's see how we can use third-party tools out there to track these interactions and these data points. For this, I'm using this kind of a lead journey where I start with the awareness, and that's the brand awareness. I put ads or maybe social media posts out there, and people see that, and then they come, they show interest and click on that and come to my website, and then they engage with my content, gated content, filling out the forms, and then when they have a business need, they commit and become customers. So in the first stage, like I said, this is mainly focusing on the brand awareness, um, like digital ad campaigns, sponsored content, or maybe your site is showing up on results in search engines, or it can be non-digital ways like billboards and printed media as well. So the brand awareness and what will it will generate is the impressions. Like when users see your brand, that's generating an impression. So that's something you can track with these awareness stage actions. And if the users are interested in these impressions, and they will click. So that's another thing you can capture. And from an SEO perspective, you can capture the search engine result page positions of your URLs, or the keywords you are ranking up for, or the ranks you are getting for those specific keywords. So here, what will happen is we need to capture this data by listening to the outside website, outside web systems or platforms. So in here, from a tools perspective, we need to use web listening tools. In Google, you might have heard this tool, Google Alerts. In there, you can use your, or you can set up your keywords like the brand name, and it will listen. And if there's like a mention out there in the web about your brand, it will notify you. In the same way, you can use tools like Mention, Sprout Social, Mailquarter to listen to the brand mentions out there. And from an SEO perspective, you can use tools like Search Console, which is again a free tool, and maybe tools like Moz, SEMrush, Ahrefs. And for URL shorteners, this is actually for the non-digital material you are using. You can shorten your URL and print in these materials, so users don't have to type the uh, full URL into the browser. They can just type the shortened version of it, and you can get impressions and clicks using this platform as well. So in this stage, it's just monitoring the web, not particularly your website. So we are not connecting these tools with our website in this stage. So we got our awareness stage covered, and then it comes to the interest stage. So they heard about your brand, now they are coming into your website. So here it will generate user visits. You will get new users. You can count returning users and page visits, and you can look about bounce rates and exit rates, and the session duration and the interactions as well. So to track these user visits and page related data, you can use tools like Google Analytics, which is a free tool, or if you have access to your server logs, server access logs, you can use log analyzers to see how many hits you are getting, how many pages are being accessed. And you can use tools like Mixpanel, AWStat, or maybe marketing automation platforms. These days, almost all the marketing automation platforms have this capability to give you an idea about your page or website visitors. And the other thing is when they engage, when they uh, come into your website and viewing your web pages, they might be clicking on the elements like button clicks, or they may be scrolling your page. So you can collect data like heat maps or scroll reports to identify how your pages are performing. For this, you can use the element tracking tools like Google Tag Manager, again a free tool, and there are tools called Crazy Egg, Hotjar. So these will track the on-page interactions like the heat maps and how uh, people are scrolling your page, whether they are actually scrolling to the bottom of the page and reading that. So those kind of things you can capture with these tools. So these tools actually, they will be connected with your website, maybe using tracking codes, or maybe you have to implement the element tracking. So if it's about web visits, mostly you will have to do a site-wide tracking method. And we got our interest stage covered now. Then come the engage stage. So they came and they read our information, they engage with our pages, and now they are engaging with our gated content and giving us their email address, so we can identify um, who is this specific user and whether they are engaging with us for the first time. So they will be a fresh lead, and then we can, based on the activities, we can score them and generate MQLs in this stage. So in this stage, basically, it's about form interactions and the personal data. And for that, you can use Google Analytics goals, but in Google Analytics goals, it will be anonymous data. It's just to see whether your forms are converting your users. So you can use Google Analytics goals, or if you want to build forms external of your from your Drupal setup, you can use landing pages tools like Unbounce, which will collect leads from the forms. And if you are having like event registration forms, webinar forms, you will have to connect your website with Zoom, go to webinar, and maybe you need to embed videos like YouTube videos and VSTI videos. You can collect leads through that. And of course, from using marketing automation platforms, also you can collect leads from this stage, and CRM will involve here as well. So you got your engage stage also covered, and the commit stage. So this is similar to the engage stage also. The data is similar to what we collect earlier, but these users, they have a business need. They come with a business need, so they might need to talk to your support team or the sales team, or they will sign up for a free trial and test your offerings. And in this stage, we generate sales qualified leads. So from tools perspective, we will need to forward these leads to our sales team. So you will have to think about lead allocation tools or automations like Zapier, or maybe if you want to schedule meetings, you will need to integrate a calendar tool like Calendly with your form, with your website, or you can integrate chatbots to support these leads, and you can use marketing automation systems and CRMs to allocate these leads to your sales people and forward these leads into the nurturing funnel. So integration in engage and commit is similar. Uh, for an example, your website can connect with tools like GoToWebinar or maybe marketing automation systems. They can connect to these systems using API. And maybe for the CRM also, they can use APIs, or Drupal has a Salesforce suite you can use to, if you want to connect your system with the Salesforce. So that's a module based connection. And to communicate within these tools, there are connectors, like Salesforce has a connector to talk to its marketing automation system. And there are connectors you can use between GoToWebinar and marketing automation, or GoToWebinar between GoToWebinar and Salesforce. So there are multiple ways you can integrate different systems in this stage. So your marketing tool stack is complete, and you have come to this point, and now you can forward these leads into your sales process. So what are the benefits? Why we should choose these third-party tools to do these integrations? So I think you may have heard of marketing technology or MarTech industry. So Scott Brinker, who's the head of this Chief MarTech, and he has come up with this diagram. I know it has a lot of information, so I have included the link here, which you can check later. So he has identified the evolution of the marketing tools out there for the past couple of years. So back in 2014, 2015, they were like thousands of them, but now there are like 8,000 plus solutions which you can use. And these covers advertising, content, and social integrations or social solutions, and data solutions, and lead management process. So there's like a vast collection of tools out there which you can use from to do these integrations. So obviously you don't have to implement anything, and the solutions are out of the box. You can just connect these tools easily with your website. Like I mentioned earlier, it might be just including a tracking code, a JS snippet in your header, just to communicate with this tool. And they have their own support system or community around that tool, which you can go and talk to always to get support. And the challenges. So yes, there's a vast collection of tools. So you have to select the right tool to work with your uh, website. So that will be a challenge, obviously. And sometimes some of these tools are not as flexible as you want it to be. Like if you want to generate custom reports, or if you want to export the data and do your own data analysis, there can be limitations. Like they won't let you export all the raw data from their platform. So there can be limitation in that. And let's say if you want to design your own custom workflow or custom process, uh, they might not be able to do that in the tool. So there are limitations like that also. And this is another important thing, the compliance of these tools. So before selecting these tools, you have to see whether they are compliant with regulations like GDPR and CCPA, that's for California, and AGPD, that's for Brazil. So there can be issues with compliance, so you need to be careful when selecting these tools. And obviously, there's a cost factor involved. If you are using there are free tools, but if you want to add more features, if you want to use the advanced features, there will be a cost involved as well. So to bridge these gaps, to find a solution for these things, what you can do is you can implement these missing pieces in your website, in your Drupal system. So again, before implementing these, you might need to revisit your data requirements and identify what you really need to capture, or what you really need to process with these implementations. So this part we discussed earlier when we were selecting third-party tools. But now you will have to decide, okay, what are my data requirements? And based on that, I can identify the data points I need to track, and then I can implement my trackers in Drupal. It can be about lead data. Like I want to capture all the lead-centric data. I want to capture all the information and all the interactions. Or it can be about the activities. I may have event registrations, product downloads. Then I need to capture all the attributes which binds with those activities. Like if it's for a product, then product version, product type, timestamps, and maybe the product pack type, the something like that. And for events, maybe the event locations and event times, and these timestamps of the interactions likewise. And then you can think about how you can interconnect your different funnel stages, and you can identify the data you want to connect these different stages, and think along those lines to decide what you need to track with your custom implementation. And the other way you can think about this is the look at your requirements, analysis requirements, and the request you are getting from your marketing team or sales team or from the leadership team. For example, they might want to see how much resource downloads generated from their online ad campaign. So in that case, you have to capture the attributes to fulfill that requirement. Or maybe someone is asking you how many customers we have generated or influenced by our search ad campaign. So in that case, you have to identify the specific attributes you need to capture those interactions. Or there can be lead conversion time lags, like from the SQL to MQL. Uh, they might take like, I'm sorry, from the MQL to SQL, they might take like 1 month to convert. So you might need to identify that time lag. So in that, along those lines, you can identify what are the attributes you need to capture. Again, so this is an interesting survey. Seagate has done this survey early in 2020, this year, and they have identified that we are capturing only the 56% of data available for us to capture. The other 44% we don't capture. We may not see that we have this data available. So we are capturing only 56%. And interestingly, out of that 56%, we only use 57% for our data analysis or maybe decision making. And the rest of the 43% just lies in your data store. So we don't have to focus on capturing all that 100% of data out there, but you need to decide what are the crucial data you want to capture to fulfill your goals. Like you you can identify these data, then again, based on the goals and maybe the strategy and the data analysis and forecasting, like we discussed in the previous slide, and uh, identify what's the critical data you want to store in your local data store. Okay, let's look at the awareness and the interest stage again and see what we can capture using our own tracking systems. So in this stage, like I said, people are coming to our website from external sources. Their visits will contain source parameters and maybe URL parameters and cookie data and everything. And you can uh, have a tracker in your website and store this in your local data store to map with your activities. So the data, I will go through the data in the next slide. And to track this again will be a common header, like it will be a site-wide tracking. So it will be similar to the third-party tool stage as well. So what we can track in this stage, one thing is the lead source or the activity source. Like I said, you might be hosting your content in a third-party site. Like there are people who are giving or hosting content for you, and your audience, your users might see that resource out there. For an example, let's say Stack Overflow. Someone is mentioning your brand name there and a URL. They click that URL and comes to your website. And that visit will contain the source as the Stack Overflow. So that's the origin of the visit. So in here, you might need to capture that source value and store it in your DB or maybe in a cookie at least to map it that user's subsequent activities. How you can capture this value is in PHP, you can use the HTTP referrer. In JS, you can use the document.referrer. But one thing to remember, this referrer value is not always available to capture. So if the server is configured in a way not to share this referrer value, you might not get this information for all your requests. So that's something you need to keep in mind. But if it's available, that's a valuable information you need to capture. And using this value, you can identify which website drives the most traffic and which sponsored content drives the most traffic, or things like you can see the performance of your referral traffic and paid media campaign. And the other thing we can track is the query parameter or the UTM parameters, which are attached to this URL. For an example, in Google Ads, if you have a Google Ads campaign and if a user sees this ad, if they click and lands on your website, that URL will have a parameter called GCL ID, Google Click ID. And that will be a unique parameter to identify that interaction. And again, you can store that value in your database or in a cookie, and you can track that in the first interaction, first touch of the lead, and associate with the user's subsequent activities. And what you can do with this type of parameters. So if you take the Google Ad parameter example again, you can use that GCL ID to map your Google Ads campaign performance with your sales data. Like there's a way to configure your Google Ads account using a connector with your Salesforce account. And if you are capturing this GCL ID from your website and passing that information to your CRM, then Google Ads will be able to map these ad clicks into the conversions and see whether there are people have converted into customers. And again, you can use these type of values to retarget your visitors. Like if you want to retarget the visitors who has just visited your page without doing anything, you can collect the GCL IDs and schedule a retargeting campaign. And using the UTM parameters, you can measure your marketing campaigns and the sources which are working for you and the mediums as well. So here's just an example how we are using it. We store these values in the session source as a key value pairs, and we capture our sessions in a separate table and associate that with the visits, and we generate custom reports using this structure. So in the engage and commit stage, again, these users are coming to your forms with that source information. And when they submit the form, you capture that activity and associate that activity with this source information. Now you know for this activity, you can say, okay, this ad campaign has influenced this product download activity. Or if they have subscribing to your services or free trials, you can say, okay, this website or this GCL ID campaign has brought in these users to sign up with these campaigns. So again, it will be capturing the personal information in this stage, and you can use form submission hooks or web form modules to capture this information. And to recap all these stages, there can be users who are coming to your website, um, carrying these source informations, UTM informations, and they might be interacting with your web forms and gated content, and you are storing those information in your website. So you can associate these submissions with this source information. Or there can be users who are coming to a website from a campaign, from an ad campaign, and they might not be submitting a form in their first visit, but you capture the information in a cookie and keep it. And in the next time when they visit the website, uh, they might do a form interaction or a engagement. So for this event, you can say, okay, this is the source of that user. And we can assume that for this activity, this is the influence factor. And you can build a whole lead story around this and say, okay, this is the first touch, and this is the second touch, and this is the source campaign for that first touch. And if you have like marketing spend expenditures like marketing spend for your campaigns, you can calculate the ROI, associate that with your marketing activities. Like for from this campaign, we have generated this set of MQLs, this set of SQLs, and this is the ROI for that. But one thing to remember in this approach, just think about whether your how much visits or how much engagements your website is getting. Maybe your website is getting like 500,000 visits per month, or maybe thousands interactions, form submissions per week or per day. So in that case, if you are going to store all this information in your local data store, you will end over the time, you will end up with a big data store. And if you have that in the same DB as your core Drupal system, that might affect your website operations and performance. So you might need to think about the scalability and the performance if you are taking this approach. And to optimize, you can decouple the systems and keep your marketing data store separate from your Drupal core system, Drupal core DB. And maybe you can in feeding the data from forms to these databases. I think we don't do that, but if you are using insert queries per activity, that might slow down your user experience for the user, because it has to feed the data into the DB and come back. And if you are using data services to feed data to these databases, you might need to use async service calls. And instead of using real-time data storing, maybe you can think about storing the data in batches, like once a day or twice a day, based on your analytics requirement or data requirement. And maybe you can use an integration tools like ESB or an API manager to throttle your requests and ensure the reliability of the processes and uh, to make sure that no data is getting lost. Or maybe if you have specific requirements, like for if you are capturing the page visits just for data analysis and data science exercises, maybe you don't need to store it in a DB. You can just store it in a CSV files, a collection of CSV files, and you can use that for your data science related exercises. So in our case, we are using something like this. We are storing all our data in a CSV based system. And we have our WSO2 enterprise service bus, which is our own product. And we have a scheduled task to go back to this file server and read the activity data and the visit data and feed into our data store, the main marketing database. And it will do that in bulk. So it will feed the data twice a day, and it will update this data in bulk. And also it's connected with our customer data, with our CRMs and other systems. And we have programmed it in a way to read the data and store only the data we need for analysis and store it in our data store. So this data store is acting as a CDP, customer data platform, because we have all the interactions, all type of form submissions and our customer data as well. And now we can connect our dashboard to this data store and build our own dashboards. We have the flexibility now. We have the raw data, we have the flexibility of playing with this data and build our own dashboards. And we can build our own reporting systems. And if our sales team or the marketing team needs like custom reports, we can still generate those reports based on the requirements. And if you want to do like data experiments or advanced data analysis, you can still do that because you have all the data in your data store. So to recap this session, so we are at the end of this session. So to recap what we have discussed so far, the lead journey and the funnel, it can be vary from one organization to another. It can depend on your needs, your data requirement, or your goals and the business, or maybe your website structure. Like if you have forms, it can behave in one way. And if you don't have forms, you might need to define another way of defining your lead funnel or the lead journey. And identifying the data needs and the business requirements will be crucial to design your marketing stack, so you won't end up with like multiple or repetitive tools which can do the same thing. So in this diagram, this is just an example. This has, for an example, it has HubSpot and Pardot in the interest stage. Both are marketing automation systems. You don't have to like use duplicate systems, like you don't have to use multiple systems to do the same thing, so that you can identify if you go through your business requirement and the data needs. And third-party tools have their own advantages. It's easy to integrate and it's just plug and play, but there are challenges as well. So you might have to think about what's missing and implement it in your way, and that will bridge the gaps in this journey and the data collection. And this using the hybrid solution will help you to build your ecosystem, and you can build a customer data platform CDP for your operations and take your team into the next level with data and analysis, and you can help with them from your marketing operation point of view as well. All right, I think we are right on time. So, okay, let's see, there's one question. So any comments on increased loading time due to tracking from third-party tools? We use Hotjar and its tracking makes our website much slower. So yeah, so that's another challenge we are also experiencing with integrating third-party tools. But there are multiple ways you can think about this. So what we are doing is we don't integrate these tools or tracking codes in all our templates or in the header. We just integrate that tracking only where we use it. Like if your contact us form only needs this tracking, we just implement that tracking code only to that page. So that way it won't affect the other pages loading time. And so that's one way you can optimize these using the tracking codes. Okay, that's all the questions for the moment, but if you have any questions, just send it to me. And my contact information is here. You can connect me in Twitter or LinkedIn, and yeah, you can talk to me and share your experience as well. All right. Thank you very much for joining me today and this session. Have a good day. Thank you.